Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back after the lunch. Technology today is more than just innovation. It is influence, infrastructure, and most importantly, it is power. The question is no longer whether technology will transform the world. It already has.
Technology is about more than just innovation. It is now influence, power, and geopolitics. As artificial intelligence is reshaping industries, data is becoming the world's most strategic resource. As cyber conflicts redefine national security, the race for the space economy has already begun. But as technology accelerates, governance sometimes struggles to keep pace. Who sets the rules for artificial intelligence? It is imperative for nations to protect data while enabling global collaboration, but can cyber conflicts be prevented before they escalate? And will space become a shared frontier or the next geopolitical arena? The stakes are enormous because technology today does not just shape markets, it shapes trust between nations, security for societies, and opportunity for billions. Can the world move from competition to cooperation? Can innovation advance without deepening divisions?
Trust is earned, not given.
And most importantly, can global leaders build consensus on the technologies that will define our future? AI has already begun automating tasks once thought uniquely human, from customer service to coding and analysis. Robotics and intelligent systems are rapidly transforming how work gets done across sectors. Is this a cause for concern when it comes to future job security? This is the conversation shaping the next era of global power. WION World Pulse Summit, building consensus on emerging technologies. For our panel on Technology Pulse, we welcome Abhishek Singh, the CEO of India AI Mission and Additional Secretary at India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Abhishek Singh is leading a 10,300 crore Government of India initiative with the mandate to build India's AI computing infrastructure, datasets, foundation models, and talent pipeline. Next up is Nitin Pai, the co-founder and director of Takshashila Institution. Nitin Pai's research is focused on the geopolitics of the Indo-Pacific, defense economics, and the politics of radically networked societies. Join your hands to welcome Venk Krishnan, the president of TIE Bangalore and founder of New Ventures, an early-stage investment fund with a portfolio of over 47 companies, including Mu Sigma, Echo, Big Basket, and Homelane, to name a few. A unique aspect of the investment firm is its collaboration with Newware, a US-based IT solutions company also founded by Venk Krishnan.
And moderating this discussion, ladies and gentlemen, is my colleague Mohammad Saleh. Saleh, it's over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shreya. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are for a very important conversation about how technology and geopolitics in many ways are interrelated. We'll talk about a whole host of issues. Mr. Abhishek Singh, let me start off with you. You are the CEO of India AI Mission. Now, AI, they say, is going to redefine our lives in ways that we can't even comprehend. And this is a race, is it not? I mean, there are big powers that are investing a lot of money in AI. As the CEO of India AI Mission, what is the Indian government doing here to try and ensure that India is at the forefront of this cutting-edge technology?
Thank you, but I would just like to make a correction. It's not that AI will. AI is already defining everything that we do, the way it's impacting our lives, the way it is impacting geopolitics, the way it is impacting industry, the way it is impacting almost every dimension that we can think of. Almost every sector is impacted by AI. When it comes to India, like we rely on the key strength that we have. And our core strength for development of AI is our talent base that we have. The human resource that we have, which has led digital transformation projects not only in India, but our companies, our engineers have been building impactful solutions across the world. We also have a very large population, a large access to data sets, multiple languages. So natural corollary is that we should be leading in the field of AI. But currently we are number 3, we are behind US and China, and the gap is quite a bit. So we are trying to bridge that gap. And how do we do that? We try to ensure that availability of basic elements which are required for taking advance in this technology, whether it's building a foundation model or building impactful AI application in various sectors and areas. It requires compute. It requires compute, which is very expensive. It requires data centers. It requires energy. So we are working at all the layers of the AI stack. Right. So whether it's providing power, whether it's providing data centers, they're providing compute, data sets platform, foundation models and applications.
I think you've touched upon several important aspects. One of the aspects that you said was India has enormous human resource, which can of course go and work there. We'll talk a bit more about it. But Mr. Nitin Pal, let me in fact bring you in on this. Now you specialize in geopolitics. Mr. Singh said that the United States and China, they are the world leaders at this moment in AI. Everything that we do is going to be defined by how well we can actually perform in the AI landscape. Where do you see India's position is? Are we investing enough? Yes, we have the talent pool, but having only the talent pool and the potential does not translate into the final results that we can get. In terms of geopolitics, considering that so much of everything that we do is already dictated by AI, where do you see India stand?
Thanks. Good afternoon. Good to be here. See, let's take a step back. Technology is a form of geopolitical power.
Absolutely.
Today, you are in an era where it is geopolitics by technology, geopolitics for technology, and geopolitics of technology. So India has no choice but to play the game and accumulate technological power. And in this particular instance, it means artificial intelligence, deep computing, biotechnology, right? You look at the whole swath of it. So there is a school of thought, I think largely propelled by the Silicon Valley types, which said that the only form of power which you can get in AI is when you have these LLMs, large numbers of servers, chips and all of that, computing power, and you build frontier models. I mean, as an engineer, I don't understand what a frontier model is, right? I mean, it's a model. It's a big model. But, all buzzwords, etc., are created. That's what you must understand from the Silicon Valley mindset, right? It is about creating fear, uncertainty, doubt, creating buzzwords so that they get more investment, more capital and all of that. That's the logic. But as an Indian thinker, I don't think that's the only way you get national power from. India must play that game, and I'm very happy to see what's happening with the AI mission. We are making that thing. We are trying to build models. We are trying to get compute power. We are playing that game. Right. But you don't necessarily have to have your own DeepSeek or your own Anthropic in order to play that game. Because the other two areas are the
If I can just counter you there.
No, let me just finish this.
Because this is important. I think we in India take a bit laid back approach. We say, let the West or others create these technologies, and then we can probably service them. Because that approach that we had for the last 20, 30 years is no longer going to work.
It's not
unless you have your DeepSeek, unless you have your Claude AI, unless you have your own ChatGPT likes, it is difficult to compete with nations that are in competition with us. What do you do if, for instance, tomorrow the United States or China decides that, listen, they're using our AI and we can shut it down if we want? Where do we stand in that competition?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That is not true. First of all, it's not true that we are laid back, right? Lots of things are happening in India in terms of AI. It's just not the script which Sam Altman from Silicon Valley wants you to have, right? And
so we want our Sam Altmans. In India, we want our Sam Altmans.
So that's not the only plot. The Indian plot is different, and that's what we have to understand, right? And as he said, the substantial part of our power in the AI age will come from people. People will do two things. They'll do three things. First, they'll also build the DeepSeeks, the Sarvams and the Bharatjans and all of that. They'll build that. It's not that we don't have game play there. But more important is where the real, the thrust of India's power will come from is when people doing two things. One, they will adapt AI for the kind of life and work which they do in whatever it is. You might be an accountant, you might be a lawyer, you might be a judge, you might be a doctor. So the adoption of AI in work, in the economy. In India, we are already a leader. Our official statistics might not capture it. But there are people with mobile phones doing all sorts of things. It's the informal economy, so to speak. Right? The second thing which India will do, and this is a story which will play out in the next 5 years, you can sort of record this and play this out, is Indian companies and Indian individuals will help the world adopt AI. That's where it is. People say, oh, because of AI, jobs will be lost. But imagine you're a procurement manager in Walmart sitting somewhere in the United States, and you have this Claude, you have OpenAI, you have ChatGPT, and you want to run it on your finance network. Will you have the confidence to just go and do it yourself?
I think that's an ambitious plan that you're setting for, that India will help the rest of the world adopt AI. We'll have to see as to how that will play out. Is that our AI that will be helping others adopt, or is it the AI that is being built at this moment in America or China? I'll come back to you again, but let me also, in fact, draw on Mr. Venkakrishnan here. Mr. Krishnan, you work with a lot of startups. So tell us about the startup ecosystem in India, especially with respect to AI. This is a nascent technology that is still, despite the advancements that we see in AI, still in its very early stages. No one can predict what AI will look like in the next 10 years. Tell us how Indian companies are trying to crack the code in getting ahead in this race for AI.
Yeah, I think...
you have to use your mics.
I tend to agree with Abhishek, but I think that we are still far off. I think we'll be fooling ourselves to say that we will do AI if we don't innovate, right? Startups are about innovation, right? We have to innovate. I think, I don't know if we should be in the foundation model race, but I think we have to adopt AI more. And as a startup, as an investor in startups, I still do not see the kind of startups which can be path-breaking from India, right? DeepSeek from China, right? So I'm saying we cannot fool ourselves and say we will be there if we don't start now, right? So I do agree, Abhishek, they have done a great job, without doubt. This kind of the kind of investments that AI needs in infrastructure is enormous, right? To build data centers, and it cannot be done by a private company. It has to be a private-public partnership. And that way, I have to commend the government. They are thinking ahead. They are saying we need to invest, right? In fact, I read an article which said investment in AI innovation was 37 billion, but it is going to double with the compute power which we need, right? Compute is going to be what we need more, right? Even our AI founders, they cannot pay for tokens which we need, right, for developing AI models. So we have to look at this, and we need to invest more. Private partnership has to be done, because more and more foundation models have been built already, right? But now what is happening is it's inference. When you say inference, what is inference? It is the AI should think like a human, right? So when you ask it a question, so far the data has been fed, it has learned a lot. It is like, I read an article which said, we are the 22 years which a child takes to grow, right? That has happened already.
Right.
Now, can that AI create new physics innovation, right? Or mathematical innovation, right? That is only happening with compute. So there is more and more going to be investments in data centers. They say they need nuclear energy kind of thing to power this, because it requires a lot of power, right? So I think
that's a crucial investment that needs to be made. Mr. Singh, let me bring you in on this. The 90s were the breakout decade for India in terms of how we built the Silicon Valley in India. And that is why we became a world leader in the services technology. But now the reality is different. The reality is to try and adapt and adopt to the new way in which technology is evolving. Do you think at this moment we have that ecosystem in India that would actually give rise to these AI fledgling companies that can in fact become world leaders?
I would say yes, because what we are seeing is in the Indian evolution of the AI ecosystem is what was not seen in the 90s. 90s and the Y2K moment was kind of an easy segue for building a services ecosystem in which we again relied on the manpower advantage. Currently, what I see when companies like Sarvam and all are raising money and are building impactful products, they are competing with the best. In fact, yesterday at the GTC, Sarvam was counted along with the 6 other companies at the Nemotron group that they have formed, NVIDIA's main event. Right. So we are there right at the top when it comes to building products. The benchmarks on all international benchmarks, Sarvam's model has performed way better than many of the more well-known, the Claudes and the OpenAI, the Geminis of the world. What we are seeing is at least 12 other companies are building similar products. And I have a whole lot of other companies who have applied for building foundation models. Our challenge currently is to ensure that I'm able to allocate sufficient compute for the hunger that exists. So I'm fully confident that it will not only be one Sarvam, but there will be several Sarvams that will be there in the pipeline. And on top of it, just like we innovated the digital public infrastructure and we built up services across sectors, we will have AI use cases that will become the model for the world to monetize AI. Right. Because the world has built, the West has built the models, but they don't still have a way of getting returns on the investment because they don't know how people will use it and how people will adopt it. But the way agentic AI will build up, the way Nitin was saying, ultimately you'll have to orchestrate the whole thing. Like legacy systems, you'll have to embed AI systems. Just having the models is not sufficient. Models are getting commoditized, but you integrate the models into your legacy AI systems, make your existing systems more efficient, and that is where Indian IT industry, that is where the TCS, Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, the companies, the Indian companies will add value. And that's where
that of course is going to be the challenge of this decade for the India IT sector, which in the last 30 years has changed the India growth story. Mr. Nitin Pai, let me bring you in on this. Now, India's advantage is that it has got this huge human resource potential. But what AI does is it actually can supplement or rather replace human worker by these agents who can actually do the work. Now, China's population is coming down because of one-child policy. Europe's population is also stagnating if it is not coming down. In your assessment, given the fact that we still have this very young population, how does India approach the opportunities and also the challenges that AI presents us?
See, you're absolutely right. There is definitely a crisis for people with graduate kind of degrees who are not living up to what that certificate says. So in India, you have a large number of graduates who have a piece of paper which says they're a graduate, but they don't have the skills and the knowledges which require. So the education system has a great variation. So if you are in that category where your degree is something but you don't have the skills, you are in trouble. But the impact will be about the difference between the rate at which young people are adopting AI, learning things on their own, versus you being unemployable because your skills are not relevant. So there is one upward trend and one downward trend. And the intersection we don't know. My guess is that the sheer ingenuity of the Indian will make sure that the adoption curve will be much, much faster than what the education system can deliver. You know, remember, we were talking about the IT sector. You know how we ended up having this many IT workers, a couple of millions, or I don't know how many numbers are. It's not because government created IT courses or people went to IIT and studied. You know, people said there are jobs in the IT sector. NIIT set up shop, Aptech set up shop, small Chota Mota set up shops. People learned it on their own. There was a training economy for IT workers. You know, it happened for JEE, it happens for IT, it happens for UPSC. Why don't you think it will happen for AI? So I think the Indian entrepreneur is alive. Right. This entrepreneur is not the kind of person who would call himself a startup and have a label and all of that. But every town, every village, every city will have mom and pop shops which will be training people in AI.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that the adoption of technology across India, whether people are educated or not, you have 800 million people who use mobile phones in India with their internet. That's a phenomenal figure. You know, probably China is the only other nation that has a population that is similar to that of India, where you have that level of technology usage by common people, people who are not really that well educated. But yes, Indians are very enterprising. But the challenge that AI presents is a different challenge than anything that we've seen in the past. And Mr. Krishnan, this is a question that I need to ask. This is what the youth of India, and indeed the rest of the world, are looking for. Artificial general intelligence, when it comes, they say, can replace human beings, which would mean that we may end up losing a lot of jobs. Do you see this as a challenge? Do you think artificial general intelligence is going to be very different from the other technologies in the past? What do you see happening with AI vis-a-vis jobs?
I think the world is moving towards AGI, right? And I think it is going to happen. More and more cognitive abilities are going to be stored in the data centers, right? Because that is where, and I think in 2-3 years, in fact, people are predicting by end of 2028, AI can think and act like a human, right? It is there, right? But we can't be worried. I think Abhishek mentioned about the Y2K moment, right? If you remember back when IT services started, right? It was the Y2K movement because every IT company said, we will help you change the Y2K, right? And it just innovated. And what do we do after Y2K? We innovated again, right? So I think my thing is, because I run an IT services company, much smaller, and I feel the clients are already on us saying, why do you need so many people, right? Why do you need 20 people to do QA, right? Can you do it with 3 people, right? So this is happening, and I think we should take that into consideration and say, how do we be prepared, right? If we are not prepared, if we are not willing to debate and talk about it, I think we are going to have a bad time. So we have, all the leaders, all should debate about this, right? Because I see it coming. There's a wave coming. So we have to be prepared.
Because this is the decade where this monumental change will happen. Mr. Singh, you as the India AI Mission CEO, you will be looking at this very closely because there are things that will happen that probably the private businesses would not be much interested in. Because India is a vast society. We have 1.4 billion people who will be impacted by this technology. For a lot of people, yes, it will change their lives. It will change the way that we actually work. But in your assessment, Nitin mentioned that when the IT revolution happened in the 80s and the 90s, it was not the government that was driving it. It was the common Indian people who saw that there are jobs and there are careers that can be made, and therefore the IT revolution happened in India. But in the case of AI, is there something that the government can do on its own to try and push or rather nudge the industry towards building AI companies that will redefine how AI is looked, used and experienced around the world? Or do you think this is all going to be public-private partnership where private money will come in, private investment will come in, and that is how you can actually take this forward?
See, the role of the government is primarily to be the enabler and to create an ecosystem in which the private sector is incentivized to make the right investments and people are able to give exposure to the opportunities that lie ahead, and ultimately it's the nation as a whole. And with the government supporting it, helps move things forward. It has happened earlier for IT adoption, and even with AI adoption, a similar playbook will play out. So like, for example, when it comes to jobs, number one, AI will not take away any jobs. People with AI skills...
That's a big statement that you're making. AI will not take away any jobs.
Let me complete. People with AI skills will take away the jobs of people without AI skills. So what is required is to ensure that the government and the Ministry of Education put sufficient emphasis so the curriculum includes data science, data analytics, artificial intelligence. We train people at the engineering level and across other disciplines, because AI again cuts across disciplines. A student in law, a student in psychology, a student in humanities, commerce, economics, he will also need to understand basics of economics. And this is already happening with the courses that we have on our Future Skills Prime portal or any other EdTech portal that we have, or even on Coursera. The largest number of people signing up these courses are Indians. Right. So we are, Stanford AI Index ranks as #1. So already the community is there. We're trying to take advantage of this. Government is enabling the compute ecosystem, the data ecosystem, financing of startups, funding, skilling. So that way the industry and the community joins together to help India move forward. And we are seeing this already happening. The investments that are coming in, that AI summit, the whole world was here. They're not here because they just wanted to visit India. They were here to look at the talent that we have, the startups which we have, the companies we have, and the opportunity that India gives to the whole world in adoption of AI. So that's the value we have.
That is the big question. We'll have to leave it there because we're completely out of time. But AI is going to change our lives in ways that we can't even imagine. This is a new technology that is going to rewrite everything that we know of our existence, what it means to be human, what it is to have a job. Mr. Abhishek Singh, Mr. Nitin Pai, and Mr. Venkatesh.
Can I add one point?
Very, very quickly, because we have completely out of time. Very quickly.
Even in the early 2000, the government stepped in and gave tax holiday for the IT sector, if you remember. Right? We didn't have to pay tax. In early 2000, if you bring revenue to India, you didn't have to pay. So I think government has been an enabler, and it continues to be an enabler. Thank you.
Government is an enabler. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us for this very incredible conversation, something that we'll keep talking through this decade, because AI is going to change our lives whether we want it or not. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much to all of you gentlemen. I request you to stay with us. I request Mr. Raktim Das, CEO, Z Media Corporation Limited, to please felicitate our panelists, present them with our token of gratitude and appreciation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today and sharing your insights and perspectives. Artificial intelligence, of course, being a key factor in our daily lives today. Concerns, challenges, and of course, the future and the present, in fact, is with AI.